What's going on, my friends? I hope that you are well. Wanted to jump on and spill the beans, a little bit of what's on my mind today. With that, God only knows half the time with my brain. But I do hope you guys are well. I hope you're getting a lot of music written. And if you're new to this, I hope you're learning as much as you can about music licensing and writing for TV and film. Basically, writing production music, because it's what it's all about. It's what we're all in it to do. I'm just sitting here doing some music today. Sinuses are going haywire today. It's not an allergy. It's just sometimes down here we have spring irritants, and it just gets me to sneezing. Some days are my eyes watering. It's crazy. But anyway, other than that, I am well, and as you have seen from the title of this video, keep your eye on the ball. We're going to talk about that a little bit because I think it's very important. I was thinking about this the other day, and because it's really, the last couple of years more so than anything, it's really become apparent how much I've got to pay attention to what's going on with, when you start getting a lot of tracks out there and you're working with numerous publishers. You know, I've said a million times, and I still stand behind it. Set it, forget it, and don't fret it. You know, this is why exclusive is king. You know, if you're signing exclusive with these publishers, you got a much better option. This is based on my experience. You got a way better option of getting your stuff placed. Now, don't get me wrong. There are people who work with non-exclusive libraries, and they can do well. You know, whatever. If there's a library and the genre of music you're doing and the situation you're in, it works for that, go for it. But the problem you have is if you start taking the same music and putting it on a bunch of different publishers, you're going to get into a lot of frustrations and problems that could get you in trouble because you forget about it and where it's at. This is where, whether you use Composer Catalog like I do, or have a spreadsheet system or one system that lets you know all the information about your track, and especially letting you know where that track is at. All the publishers, you've got to stay on top of that, because you could forget about a track and all of a sudden you put exclusive with the library where you've got a non-exclusive in 4 other libraries. Well, let's say one of those libraries, it's non-exclusive, but they take it in perpetuity. You got to read that contract. I've said that before. And perpetuity means it's forever. It's not leaving. I have music with a non-exclusive library, which the majority of tracks in that non-exclusive library are only with him, even though it's not exclusive. But they're in perpetuity. They're not going anywhere, except maybe 1 or 2 tracks that are with another non-exclusive library. But he's asked me by contract, please don't put it with stock libraries like royalty-free libraries, and he has his reasons why he doesn't want that. You have to understand that if you have the same music in a bunch of different places, and these music supervisors or production companies or TV people, whoever's looking, could be editors looking for music, they see that same piece of music in several different places, they're less inclined to use that because it's a liability to them. Now, I know some of you might say, well, that's a lie, that's not true. It is very true, because I hear these editors and a lot of these people talk about this. I've heard it. A lot of these panels, these conferences, and talking to them, and you get on YouTube and you can listen to interviews that are done by it. If you just look up music supervisor interviews, and they talk about, I talked about following that channel for Taxi TV. You don't have to be a member of Taxi. It's free. Go follow it. There's a lot of educational content in there. That's one thing I say about Michael Laszlo. You may not want to do Taxi or have the capacity to do it or like it. Doesn't matter. You will learn so much. And he's interviewed these guys, and you will see this. And they talk about this stuff. Talk about the things that, because this industry has changed so much, especially the last 12 years. When I started in it, non-exclusive, it was about the tail end of where non-exclusive was cool, and then it started changing. One of the first companies to change it for me was Jingle Punks, which is the first library I ever signed with. Jingle Punks, it just non-exclusive, and I didn't know much about this part of the business. I didn't really know. All I knew is I started hearing my stuff on TV, and I was like, I like this. Let's throw music out there like we're throwing spaghetti in the wall and hoping it sticks. I mean, that's something I already talked about before. You can't do either. But the thing is, it started changing, and they started emailing going, hey, we're going to start going exclusive, and we're going to give you an option now. You can do exclusive or non-exclusive. Exclusive, you're going to have a better option in place because our clients are going to know it if it's with us exclusively. And they started saying, understand that you can't have it anywhere else. And I started to really start learning about contracts, understanding the business, what I'm doing, even before I started understanding how to write for this how to write for music licensing and for TV, the structure, and just how to write, which is a different beast than writing hit songs. It's instrumental music, and even singer-songwriter stuff for TV is the structure is a little different, and you have to cater your lyrics and your music to a mood, a genre, and a theme. Lyrics being theme, but back to my point is that I started learning about this, so I said, okay, I picked some tracks, let me put those exclusive, and then I started realizing the importance of going, okay, I think it was all but about 2 tracks at the time. I just did a whole catalog, let's go everything exclusive. And then eventually those 2 went exclusive, and I think there was a few tracks that they bumped out because it didn't work for the catalog years ago, and I shifted them somewhere else. So those were another exclusive library or non-exclusive somewhere else. And what it ended up is a couple of those being non-exclusive, but still exclusive only at that non-exclusive publisher. That particular publisher, I can tell you who it is. It's called Smash Tracks. The guy's name's Jeremy Sweet. I don't have a ton of tracks with him. He's one library, probably doesn't care if I talk about it. I will tell you that he, this is a good thing, and you might want to think about this. He subhubs into Spirit Production Music, which is killer. If you can get in with a subhub at Spirit Production, it's a big, distribution library like Universal, but not as big as Universal, but the guys over there have crossed over from Universal, some of the big companies, and they're a big contender, like APM and these guys, or it's set up like BMG where they use labels only too, where you find a subhub library, you'll get 100% of writers, you split sync fee with them 50-50, but they have to split 50-50 with them, so in other words, it's split 3 ways, so you probably end up with 25% in sync fee, which is okay. You're not going to see in this industry, unless you're in a situation where you're catering to specific things, writing for, like you're the only guy writing for a documentary or show, or it's understood up front, we're going to pay you, that you're going to see a lot of sync fees. This is why your back end you're working for that back end. You always would love upfront sync money, nothing wrong with that, but you're working for that back end. So there's a lot of things you want to learn about what is it you want to do in this business. But sticking to my point here is you got to keep your eye on the ball with these things. I'd say about now there's probably about 10 to 12 publishers. I'd say easy. Might be another one coming up here this year. I'm not going to sign. I got to concentrate on who I have. I'm busy with. But I'm thinking about, I've been promising this guy I would send him some music. I see him at the conference every year, and I really want to get him some music. I'd probably get 20 tracks for him before the end of the year and get him done. But it's a point where I've got all these publishers, I have to pay attention. And reverting back to what I said, set it, forget it, and don't fret it. I stand behind that and believe in that. Please, don't marry this music. It's production music. Set it, forget it, don't fret it. But what you do have to do is you've got to go back every once in a while, whether it be once a month, and you're going to have to sign in these libraries. You need to check on your music, folks. Because I've got one particular publisher that there were about 10 or 15 tracks, and they ended up in the denied pile. And what it is they'll go through each year, and some tracks they'll reevaluate whether they don't know if they're fit for them, or if they want to continue them before they register them. And it's rare, but they do it. And they're like, you're free to send these up to others. So if there's in the denied, what it was in this case was I had to email, and it was some work. Why are these in the denied pile? Is there anything I can fix? What's going on? He goes, let me go back and check why. And according to them, their new system, their new webpage, there's going to be a reason why, and it'll tell you so you can fix it, alert them, and if they don't want it, they'll tell you you're free to take it to another library, then you can. That's where it's in writing legally that they will tell you can do it. So in this case, a bunch of them, I had some editing stuff I needed to do, and there were some things, and I got that done. And there were about 2 or 3, maybe 4 I needed to take elsewhere, and that's fine. I put them to another publisher, and they will get placed. They really will, because I've sent those to another publisher that's placing a lot of music I'm doing now. So it's in the same thing that I'm doing for them as I'm doing for that library. So it's really, and you get into a situation like that, make sure you take that music, don't just throw it to another library. Make sure you put it into a library that's going to get you some placements is going to place a lot of that music. But what I will encourage you to do, if you end up in a situation where you got an exclusive library or any library, it says you're free to take it elsewhere, and don't take it personally. this is the nature of this business. It happens all the time. Just email them and say, these are the tracks that you have denied, pal. I just want to know what needs working on, or unless they all are free to go to another publisher, can you let me know? Make them tell you in an email that they are free for you to send to another publisher. Then you've got right to go ahead and take them somewhere else, which leads to another point. Whatever you do, any and all communication with every one of these libraries, set up an email folder in your email and save every bit of communication with every one of these libraries. Save it, because they're keeping tabs on any communication you've made. Because trust me, I've dealt with like Jinglepunks, and Jinglepunks like a year and a half prior pulled up an email and said, this is where we talked about this, or I'll resend you this because I think that's where we told you could help you, or no matter what it was. They know. They keep that communication that covers their butt. You need to do the same to cover your butt, because things aren't perfect. They can lose their communication as well as you could. So please do that. But the point is, it can be some work, and you need to go in, you need to check on this music. Now, there are some libraries that you can't see in a back end where your music is if you don't have a login, and they don't make their catalog public. It's kind of hard. In that instance, every few months or so, you meet a couple of times a year, email them and say, hey, just checking on, everything's okay with my catalog. Are there any tracks that have been kicked out that I need to know about, or is everything okay? They'll tell you. And just in that same email, say, listen, I'm really wanting to get you some more music, and just checking on your music needs. Is there anything else that you need? While you're emailing them that same question. And be very appreciative. Thank you so much. You know, a part of this is you've got to build a relationship with these guys. You be relevant. This one particular publisher that I had those edits with, I'm probably on with them weekly with emails and questions, and I've got new tracks here, what we're doing, you know. I bet you there's 2 or 3, maybe 4 emails a month with them. And I'm relevant. They know me by first name. I'm active with them. In this particular program, I'm not in a group with a ton of composers, but I'm doing a lot of work for them. And you're doing a lot of work for them, they'll be more inclined to do a lot of work for you and help you. It's a lot of this partnership stuff that you got to understand. But when I say you've got to stay on top and keep your eye on the ball, this is keeping your eye on the ball. You've got to go through and you've got to pay attention, make sure everything's working right. Another thing, probably once a year, every couple times a year, look in your PRO and make sure these things are being registered. Now, don't get meticulous about them not being registered, and I'll tell you why. I know COVID backed up, but some of these companies get a ton of music, and it takes them a while to get it registered. Now, don't worry if it's not registered. I will tell you that as another point. Even because it's not registered, their clients will still report your IPI in the track, and that you will get paid for them still. I'm currently just numerous tracks of getting a lot of placements through a show called America's Book of Secrets and a bunch of other shows. I think it was another one. Gosh, what was that show? It was another one. But your royalty statement will probably say cues, but you don't see the name of the track, but you got paid for them. It hadn't been registered yet, but what they're doing is as they see that and they know their cue sheet has the name of the cue, they'll get back with the publisher and get them registered. They'll see that, and then in turn get those registered. And as time goes on, some publishers don't register until they see a first placement. I mean, it's weird, but they don't. But they will eventually get registered. But don't worry, you will get paid for that, and that will happen. And answer the question here, I mean, the last few years that I've learned, the Strides question, I didn't see the name of the track, but it says because it hasn't been registered yet, but it will be. But you need to check on that. Make sure there's no mistakes in your catalog. I mean, with as many tracks as I have, I've got many registrations to look through. And I'll see a lot of stuff where if you look in your PRO and it tells your TV show something cues, and you see that listed in there, but you don't see a track name. But it's like, I know ASCAP has cue sheets you can view, but BMI doesn't. I kind of hope they get to that. That would be cool. But that indication, when you see that in your PRO, it has the name of a show and it says cues, means it's been placed, and you'll see money from it eventually, or you may already have. So, but the things you need to look for, just stay on top of things, making sure that you've got everything backed up and everything is cataloged because time's going to go on, whether you do 52 tracks a year, 100, 150, 200, 300, no matter how many tracks you do a year, you got to stay on top of it because it's going to add up. I mean, you do 250 tracks a year in 4 years, you're looking at 1,000 tracks, and it's a lot to keep up with. You want to know where everything is at, and you want to do that meticulously. This is a part of staying on top of your business. If you treat it like that, you got to do that. It may not seem like that now, but it's going to get to that. And it's not that much time out of composing. I've already said that there's going to be some things you may not want to do, but you got to do it, out of composing, like filling out spreadsheets, and you can logging in and uploading your tracks and doing the metadata and all the stuff, kind of like AudioSparks does. If you're familiar with AudioSparks' upload process, if you haven't put any music with them, you can open an account and get approved with them and send them some music. But there are videos out there to show you how to upload AudioSparks, and it'll show you the process. It's a little lengthy. AudioSparks is a little weird. I kind of didn't realize that when I did exclusive to them. I asked them about, when the one's exclusive that I do with you, do I need to register on my end, or do you? And they said, well, if you allow us to administer your publishing, which is nothing wrong with, you have to go opt in that. Well, I didn't know that. So I went and just opted in for everything. So now they're going to go back and all the tracks I have with AudioSparks, they're going to register them and they'll administer the publishing, which is fine. It's okay. It's just like being with a non-exclusive publisher. Even though I have tracks, their publisher administration is not exclusive, but I have tracks that are exclusive with them, and they have to remain exclusive with them. So regardless of what their administration is, if you say check exclusive on there, it needs to be exclusive. And that's the way that is. The one thing about AudioSparks is one of those non-exclusive or exclusive. It's in there in perpetuity. So with an exception, a few that are non-exclusive on there, I would just do exclusive with them because it's not going in there. It's in perpetuity. It's not going anywhere at all. Whatever tracks you decide to put with them. Don't know with respects to AudioSparks how many placements I'm going to get, but it's a part of just staying on top of that and seeing what it'll do, in time. They have that Radio Sparks thing. It's kind of an addition to your release music. You can get little mechanicals, You'd have to have a lot of tracks in there to get something worthy of that, but, it's up to you whether it's worth your time or not. So many people are out there on the internet talking about it, and they'll really give you some good insight about this stuff. Try to learn as much as you can about this, As part of that stuff, take some time away from composing center and watch and learn about some things. There's so much to learn about it. I'm still learning because this stuff is changing all the time. It really is. It really is. But stay on top of this. Keep your eye on the ball with this stuff because it really will help you. You don't want to get in a situation to where 2 or 3 years goes down the pike and you've had a publisher, kick some tracks into a denied pile, or as Jingle Punks does, it's in their removed pile, and you didn't know it. And the tracks could have been working for you somewhere else. You got to stay on top of that stuff. You want to, because out of the blue, Jingle Punks will just go kick it in a removed pile, and you don't know why. I ask them, they just said it just doesn't work for the catalog. They don't even know. I'm like, they have so many tracks in that library. I think last time I checked, Jingle Punks had over 600,000 tracks in their catalog. It's insane. Production music. It's a lot. It may have more than that now. It's probably a lot more than that. This has been a while since I've heard that figure. But these are the examples of why you got to stay on top of this. It's better to start doing it now and get into that habit. I, once a week, log into some of these and just check around and make sure I have that many tracks with these guys. I'm uploading numerous tracks a week with a few of these publishers. And, I've got one publisher that it's like they still haven't uploaded a lot of stuff to their source audio page. They switched over. It's DL Music. That's another publisher I could tell you about. Derek Luff Music, dl-music.com. Really good people to work with. Hadn't gotten me a ton of placements, but I've got it's only 800 and something pieces of music showing, but it's probably well over 900, close to 1,000 pieces of music now since I've been with them since 2010 or 11. I got the contract with them through another publisher that I was working with years ago, one of the first publishers I signed with. But they're really easy to work with. The only thing about them is they got a huge appetite for hip-hop tension at DL, and a couple others that, I've done a lot of other minimal emotional type music, and it didn't get a ton of placements, but that's not to say that one day won't come along that all of a sudden I see a ton of placements with all this music, and it won't be cool because it could be. That's why I'm just leaving it there, setting it, forgetting it, and not fretting it. Simple as that. But I go in there and I check, but in their cases, just because it's not on their webpage doesn't mean it's not getting placed, and I know for a fact that's the truth. As they said, we have our clients go into the back end and look at the music, and it's, you know, we'll get it uploaded, but it's okay. It's in there so they can see it. Everything is good, and that's true because I got 3 or 4 tracks that I think were placed in growing up hip hop. They were hip hop tension based tracks. I'm not a big hip hop guy, but they were placed, but they're not uploaded on their Source Audio page yet, and they weren't on their other web page. So again, you know, these are the things of keeping up with these guys and being relevant and checking in with them and let them tell you and knowing what's going on. You know, don't freak out, you know. It's not on the web page, man. What are y'all doing, you know? It's okay. It's there, and it will get placed. It really will. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of cover that and just kind of get that off my mind to anyone who's just getting started in this, or even if you've been doing it a while and you haven't thought much of it. Just keep your eye on this stuff, and it will help you a lot. It really will. I'm running a little long here. I'm going to jump off. But keep saying if I get some time, I want to do some live composing on here too. And a couple other things I want to do I've talked about. But as it comes to mind and I can do it, I'll get on and talk about it. And if you got anything you want me to talk about, any questions, throw them in the comments. And other than that, I appreciate you for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video. I appreciate you. Be cool. Bye.